So thank you for that introduction, President Fox. I really appreciate the opportunity to speak to you graduates as well as your family and friends who are here today. First of all, I want to say congratulations. You've done it, right? It's been a very difficult year, but you guys have overcome the obstacles to be where you are now. Parents, family, and friends, I also know that you are as much responsible for their success as they are, so I also want to congratulate you for their shared journey. And now I know exactly what you're thinking, so I'm going to get off script here a little bit. You're thinking that dude has the best graduation outfit of everybody here, and you would be right. Number two, you're thinking to yourself, how in the world did I end up with the honeybee professor speaking at my graduation? Well, it's a little bit of a story. You see, I've had students graduate just like you. I've sat in the audience beside them ready to hood the doctorates, and I would sit there, and every time a faculty member would be invited to speak, I would go, what in the world is a quality that they possess that would make President Fox ask them to speak at graduation? And being now so involved in the process, I've discovered that it takes absolutely nothing at all to be where I am. Let me tell you the story. It was one of those moments that you'll just remember forever. I was literally in a Gainesville Walmart when my phone went off, and I don't know about you, I don't answer my cell phone. Number one, because I just don't need to extend my car's warranty, right? And number two, I didn't know it was the president who was calling. Once I figured out it was the president who was calling, I called him right back from the Walmart grocery section because he's kind of my boss. And I said, yes, sir, Mr. President, what is it that you need? He said, Jamie, how would you like to speak at the August 2020 graduation, the 1 year past? And I said, of course, yes, and that answered an incredibly important question. The president goes shopping for graduation speakers at Walmart. And that is how I ended up your speaker. Honestly, I was a little bit relieved that I did not have to give the graduation last year. Our world was in the midst of an international pandemic. Our country was in the throes of social injustice. I just did not feel adequately prepared to speak to you and give you words of wisdom and encouragement during that time. And like I've already said, furthermore, who am I to speak at your graduation? Literally, when I got home that day, I was going to tell my wife, you'll never guess what happened to me. I got invited to speak at graduation. And right before I did that, I flipped on the TV, and the University of Wisconsin had just announced that they invited J.J. Watt to speak at their graduation. And I instantly felt completely inadequate. To make matters worse, the president has someone in his office who helps people with their speeches, and they sent me over a 12 or 15-page document on how to write graduation speeches. And there were excerpts from Bono, Steve Jobs, I can't make this stuff up, J.K. Rowling, and Stephen Colbert. And I'm like, these poor guys are going to be so disappointed when they see it's me. If you look at the screen now for a second, there could have been so many Gator greats, right? Tim Tebow, Aaron Andrews, Caleb Dressel, Chris Collingsworth, Abby Wambach. And just quickly before I go any further, it was very difficult for me to find a picture of Caleb Dressel with his shirt on. But fortunately for all of us, it was very easy for me to find a picture of Steve Spurrier with his shirt on. And amidst all these people you could have ended up with, you got this guy right here. Well, don't clap yet. I'm not done. Well, I did feel inadequate, but I did feel like I had some things that I wanted to share with you. I know you guys are incredibly accomplished. I recognize that. I'm very proud of you. Our faculty are proud of you. And since I've been at the University of Florida, and I'm going to slide in a piece of trivia that's worth knowing, today, this very moment, is my 15-year anniversary as a faculty member at UF. It's not my day, guys. It's your day. Just calm down. I was told, incidentally, the PhD students don't laugh, so you guys are doing pretty good. I've attended countless workshops, professional development opportunities. I've attended multiple ways to make myself better while I was a faculty member. and on and on and on. Everything they teach us is excellence, excellence, excellence. Our university strives for it. It's preached from the mountaintop, and excellence is the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. And now, this really began to work for me for a while until it kind of stopped. And as someone who runs a lab, as someone who's very focused on trying to be better myself all the time, another quality came to mind when I was thinking about what I could share with you. And that quality is exceptionalism. If you'll look at the overhead, exceptionalism is the condition of deviating from the norm. Check. And incidentally, you have as well. It's also being rare or superior. Now, exceptionalism just made sense to me, and what I want to do is spend the rest of my time this afternoon trying to share with you how I think exceptionalism can be represented in you. So I'm going to start by being brutally honest. I have a recurring dream. Now, you psychologists in the audience are about to get really excited. I have a recurring dream. And in that dream, I'm back in high school. And every time I have this dream, I am playing some sport in high school. And my dream is not quite practicing hard enough or not quite playing hard enough. And in my dream, I feel like I didn't give it my all, and I wake up ashamed, number one, but also embarrassed that I don't have the opportunity to go back in time and fix that. So I don't usually put much stock into dreams, but I know why I have this dream. And there's many examples that I can give you, but I'm going to give you one. I know looking at me, it's going to be an incredible surprise to you that I played football my senior year in high school. I was actually pretty good. I was good because I was a receiver, and I was so scared of getting hit that when I caught the ball, I ran for self-preservation. Well, in high school, our coach developed a type of activity that we could do where he ranked us from the fastest individual on the team all the way to the slowest individual on the team, and then he would pull us out in groups of 3. So the first 3 fastest individuals, the first fastest on the team, the second fastest, and the third fastest, and for purposes of full disclosure, I was the third fastest. He would pull us out in groups of 3 and require us to run the entire 100 yards in a sprint. And if the first fastest didn't finish first, and the second, and the third, then he thought that they underperformed, and we'd have to do the drill all over. Now, you guys are getting your doctorate, so you already know exactly what a bunch of high school boys did. We figured out in order to keep from having to run additional sprints, all we had to do was finish exactly the way that we were expected to finish. So the fastest was always first, the second, and the third. And I will tell you, graduates, this is not exceptionalism. Exceptionalism does not cut corners. Exceptionalism, exceptional individuals embrace opportunities for self-improvement. My wife and I have 4 children. They're not here. They'd be the ones cutting up if they were, but they're not here. And all 4 of our children play in a local basketball league, and 2 of them were playing on the same group, and the coach designed a skill to teach passing. And it doesn't take kids very long to figure out how to exploit the system. What he would do is he would split them out on court, and there were 2 positions on the court that if you would go to, that particular exercise would be the easiest it possibly could be. So when the coach let the kids run to spots, almost all the kids chose those 2 spots. That day, after practice, I pulled my 2 oldest kids aside, and I said to them, listen, you'll never grow. You will never grow or get better if you take the easier path than the one designed to make you better. So I challenged them that day to not go to the easiest spots on the court, but to go to the spots on the court that would be most difficult to accomplish. The very next practice, just a few short weeks, mind you, after my daughter had appendicitis and was recovering from appendicitis surgery, she was running to the most difficult spot on the court, and the coach, who knew that she had appendicitis, said, now listen, I want you to go over here. It'll be a little bit easier for you. And my daughter said this to the coach, and I kid you not, no, I want to go to this spot because it affords me the greatest opportunity to improve. I think a lot of people learned an important lesson about exceptionalism that day. Exceptionalism is doing your absolute best in everything. Everything. I've tried to teach exceptionalism to the members of my lab the 15 years I've been a faculty member here. And let's face it, it's difficult to do. We as humans are usually content with just getting by. And you're right, I'm talking to you, freshman chemistry. Most of us do just enough to get by, but we don't excel. And I will tell you, that is not the friend of exceptionalism. You'll hear me say that a lot. I was pre-med when I was an undergrad at the University of Georgia, and when I decided to get my PhD, all the people I knew continued on to medical school, and there was a saying floating around the medical school students, and they would say, "What do you call an individual who graduates medical school with all C's?" Doctor. Right? And while that was funny, I want to challenge before you the very notion that is taught in that principle. Merely passing a course when you can do better is not a quality of exceptional. You need to be exceptional in all that you do. When you make your bed, when you serve a client, when you teach a student, when you raise your children, when you heal the sick, when you represent someone in court, when you teach, be exceptional in all you do. Exceptionalism is also being a person of integrity. Now, integrity is a difficult concept to teach, but it is rooted in morality. It has a strong moral standing. It's also rooted in honesty. But I like the practical definition of integrity is who you are when folks are not looking. You cannot find integrity in the hallowed halls of the University of Florida. You cannot find it atop the ivory tower. It is not buried in an English composition book. It is not a play called From the Sideline by Dan Mullen. It is something to which you must subscribe. I'd like to tell a personal story about integrity, and unfortunately it features me and my lovely wife Amanda. That's us, a selfie. In Scotland, I won't tell you that she's over there by herself. I won't point her out to you right there. Yep, she's that one. The other Dr. Ellis in the household. I love my wife. And probably many of you could figure out from my accent that I'm from the South. And as a Southerner, I follow many of the same customs that you see folks do as they respect their wives. I hold the door open for her. I let her go first into the room. And it's really easy for me to do that when my wife is standing right there beside me. But what she doesn't know is that I believe in integrity and my love for her so much that when she's not in the room, I always set the table first at her spot at the kitchen table. If it's my turn to fold the clothes, and it rarely is, I always fold her clothes first. And I know this seems minor and insignificant, but what I will tell you, I respect my wife, I love my wife, and it doesn't end when I'm around her. You have to understand I do this because she is important to me, and in integrity, if it's important at all, it is important always. Exceptionalism thrives when purpose and community meet. Here's the B part. Are you ready? Honeybees are remarkable organisms. That's a honeybee in all of its glory. By the time I'm done of this little part of my speech in 3 minutes, all of you are going to re-enroll at the University of Florida and try to join my lab, but there's just not enough room. You are looking at a honeybee. I've been a beekeeper since I was 12. I fell in love with science when I was a teenager, and I married those two together when I decided on a career path, and I've discovered that honeybees can actually teach you a lot about life. So, there are 3 types of bees in a hive. Now, this is the last thing that I want you to learn. Just look at me. This is easy. The 3 types of bees in a hive, there's the queen, the worker, and the drone. If you look at that image, the queen is in the upper left. Her job is to lay all the eggs in the hive. She makes no decisions except should I lay an egg or not. The drone is at the bottom. That's the male. His only job in life is to mate with the queen. That's it. Why are you giggling? People always giggle when I say that. And then the one in the upper right is the worker bee. And worker bees, of course, they do all the work. Now, the beautiful thing about this is in entomology, when we look at social insect colonies, and honeybees are social insects, colonies have about 50,000 individuals or so in them. When we look at social insect colonies, we often look at the colony as if it is an organism. We call this term, we call this phenomenon superorganism. Not super because it's great or grand or exciting, but super because the prefix super means above. So a superorganism is a level of organization above that of just the organism. So the colony is itself a beast. It functions like an animal does. It mounts immune responses, it reproduces, it collects food, etc. Now, here's the key part about purpose and community and exceptionalism. You see, when you take 2 honeybees and you squeeze them together, you have 2 honeybees. When you take 100 honeybees and squeeze them together, you have 100 honeybees. But when you take 1,000 honeybees and squeeze them together, you have a colony. Now, I know that that's subtle and you may be missing what I'm saying, but listen to how impactful this is. You see, when you put honeybees together, you get colony-level properties that are otherwise absent in the individual. The honeybee colony is greater communally than it is individually. Just to give you an example, a single honeybee can forage a 5-mile radius around its hive, but a whole colony can cover an area of 80 square miles. A single honeybee is cold-blooded because it's an insect. But when you put them together, the honeybee colony is actually warm-blooded. Honeybee colonies, when it is cold outside, will heat. When it is hot outside, they will cool, and they maintain their nest around 94.5 degrees. A honeybee is cold-blooded, the colony is warm-blooded. When you put them together in community and purpose, and they do what they do, you get something new that emerges. Graduates, this is exactly what our forefathers were thinking when they adopted the motto, E pluribus unum. Out of many, one. They envisioned a country that supports, encourages, fosters, and promotes exceptionalism that leads to common purpose and unity. We advance as a nation when we embrace exceptionalism and when our leaders embrace exceptionalism. Finally, and pay close attention to this, graduates. Please look at me because you need to hear this. Exceptionalism is no accident. It does not just happen. It manifests itself when sheer will, preparedness, and opportunity meet. We've been watching the Tokyo Olympics the last 2 weeks, and it illustrates this idea perfectly. We have witnessed international athletic exceptionalism. But I will tell you, those athletes had years of preparation, physically and mentally. They also had the opportunity to excel. Now they're taking advantage of that in the Olympic Games. Like Olympic athletes, you can become exceptional as well, but only by fanatical determination when you prepare yourself exhaustively and rise to the occasion when the opportunity manifests itself. And this is the most tender part of the whole talk. And I'm speaking to you graduates because some of you need to hear this. I do youth ministry work at my church in High Springs, and I've worked with thousands of kids over the years. I've seen poverty at all levels. And the scariest poverty to me is not poverty of finances, but poverty of mind. Because that's usually accompanied by the belief that I can't do it. Graduates, you have what it takes to be exceptional. And do not let anyone tell you otherwise. Class of 2021, you found purpose at UF. You've been a part of community at UF. You are the Gator Nation. But you have Herculean tasks before you. We have an international pandemic, social injustice, food crises, environmental crises, overwhelmed healthcare system, and dare I say it, political impotency. These issues cannot be addressed by the half-hearted. They cannot be addressed by those motivated by self-interest. They can only be addressed by the equipped, the willing, the exceptional, and that is what I am calling you to be. Graduates, are you willing to be exceptional? I want to congratulate you once more on your amazing accomplishments. I wish you the best. Go forth, be exceptional, and change the world.